Hey guys, Lucas here again. It is the end of the year. It's the end of 2012. We all survived. We were all able to see the movies that came out this year, and it's time, since it is the end of the year, for the reviewers of YouTube, myself included, to give out their best movies of the year that they saw, and also their worst. I don't think I'll be doing a worst of this year, because this year, while I was disappointed by a lot of movies, and a lot of movies were, I thought, kind of mediocre, and it's one of the few years in recent memory where I haven't given a movie 5 stars, although one came very close on this list. There's only like 4 or 5 movies that I really thought were truly bad, and there's a couple that I could put up on my list, but I don't know if I would have enough to really make a top 10 worst. But without any further ado, let's reward the movies that did, had some effort put into them, and that really stood out this year. So before we start, I have some honorable mention. 21 Jump Street. It was very close to making my list. It was between this and another comedy, but I think if anything, 2012 was a great year for comedies. Out of all the comedies that came out this year, I don't think there was a bad one, at least the ones that I've seen, or at least the major comedies that came out. I thought most of them were really funny, and it was a big step up from last year's comedies. Another one is I have The Pirates Band of Misfits. It's actually my favorite animated movie of the year, probably, and one I kind of forget about, because if you know, it was like the Aardman Animations, and it was a British movie, but it came out in April, and it's a really funny movie. It's a short movie, but it's really enjoyable, and I actually really liked it a lot. Also, another animation I have, Frankenweenie and Wreck-It Ralph, 2 that were also very good animated movies. They weren't quite as good as the Pirates movie, in my opinion, but I both enjoyed them a lot. I also have Savages on here, fun movie. It was my biggest guilty pleasure of the year, because I do recognize that it's not really a great movie, but I still had a lot of fun with it, and a really fun movie in my opinion. And The Life of Pi, I thought it was a really damn good movie, but just quite wasn't effective enough, or I didn't like it enough to put it in my top 10, but still, very good movie. So without any further ado, let's get to the real top 10. Number 10, I have Flight with Denzel Washington. Now, Flight is directed by Robert Zemeckis, and I was interested in seeing Robert Zemeckis do this movie because, yeah, he's in a couple of adult films before, not one of which that I've seen, but I think we mainly know him from Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and all those really kind of kids classics. So it was kind of cool to see him deal with a movie that was this dark and with a subject like alcoholism. And I definitely think it's one of Robert Zemeckis' most nuanced movies. There's a lot of subtleties in here, and that also has to give credit to Denzel Washington, who has one of his most nuanced and multi-layered performances in this movie. He's great. It's got a great soundtrack. I love when Denzel's walking out of his hotel room to the Feeling Alright by Joe Cocker. It's great. And if there's anyone that can make cocaine look cool, it's Denzel, and I really like this movie a lot. It was effective, it was entertaining, so that's why it's at number 10. Number 9, the movie that replaced 21 Jump Street up a little bit on this list, and that was Ted. Now, usually, if this was a better year for film, if there was a lot more great movies, this probably wouldn't have made the list, but just in terms of straight-up laughs, this movie definitely wins. I mean, Seth MacFarlane, Family Guy used to be my favorite show on television. I thought it was the funniest show on TV for a while. It was then replaced by It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I've seen some of its later episodes, and it has declined a lot in quality. But I still think Seth MacFarlane is a genius. I love his brand-pushing humor. I've been a big fan of his for a while, and I think my sense of humor is a lot like his, and since I was watching Family Guy when I was a lot younger, I think that I also shaped my sense of humor. This movie is just hysterical. I love the bond between Ted and Mark Wahlberg, and overall, I think for the most part, it's pretty well written. I like that Mila Kunis' character is not a complete bitch, and she's actually a realistic character. And I think everything just works really well, and it's a laugh-out-loud movie, one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. So that's why it gets number 9. Number 8, we have Skyfall. Now, I could like this movie even more than I already do on repeat viewings, and this is definitely by far the best James Bond movie of all time besides Casino Royale, in my opinion. I love there's some things that I really love about this movie that I like even more than Casino Royale. Like, I love how they make Bond relevant with the whole online terror threat and using computers and stuff as terrorism instead of just, you know, I'm going to take over the world, muscle-twirling Bond villains that we're used to. And I like that. I just think it's well shot, it's entertaining, it's got a lot of character development and backstories for M and James Bond. Like Casino Royale, it's immensely rewatchable, and I really like the movie right now. I could like it even more on repeat viewings, but it's one of the most fun experiences I've had at the movies, and it's super well written, super well acted, and Javier Bardem is a great villain. Overall, this is just a really good action film and a great Bond movie. For 7, we have The Cabin in the Woods. Now, when I saw this movie, I thought it was great, and then me and my dad, who I saw it with, we were talking about it, and then we just realized how freaking genius it was. This was my favorite movie of the year for a long time, and in my opinion, every horror movie or every bad horror movie that comes out nowadays, I think of as just a product of The Cabin in the Woods. I'm not going to say why. If you've seen the movie, you know why, and I know a lot of people that have made comments on YouTube feel the same way, but this movie is so genius. I really hope that people that haven't seen it check it out just to understand what I'm talking about, but it's such a great idea, and I know a lot of people that didn't really understand it, just thought it was the stupidest movie of all time. So really be a horror fan and a horror buff before going in, and you'll realize how genius the movie is. And it's going to be a horror classic, and I know it already kind of is. Number 6, we have The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I had the highest expectations for this movie, and I think a lot of other people did, and I think that's why a lot of people, including myself, were disappointed on first viewings. However, this is a movie that I don't think you can really fully appreciate on first viewing because there's so much information and there's so much stuff being thrown at you. And while technically, is it the weakest of the series? Maybe. Is it as good as The Dark Knight? No. Is it as good as Batman Begins? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Batman Begins has better writing, but in terms of enjoyment, I like this movie probably as much. But I still think it absolutely closes the trilogy phenomenally. I've rewatched the movie numerous times in the theater and on Blu-ray, and I've appreciated more things about it. It does have a lot of problems, and I think a lot of people, including myself, also were kind of shocked that it has a much different feel than The Dark Knight, and that's one of the things that seems so cool about the trilogy, is that each movie in the trilogy almost has a completely different feel. I really like this movie. It's one of the best of the year. I think it's a great conclusion to probably my favorite trilogy of all time, or at least one of my favorite trilogies of all time. Got a great villain, it's got great action, has its problems, yes, but is it still a really good movie and a really good Batman movie? Hell yeah. Number 5, we have Looper, the sci-fi flick written and directed by Rian Johnson, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis. I was looking forward to this movie for 3 main reasons. 1, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a great actor. 2, I was excited to see Bruce Willis in a movie again. 3, Rian Johnson, I've heard nothing but great things about going into the movie. I haven't seen his first 2 movies, and I still haven't, but a lot of people were psyched going in. And I thought the premise was intriguing, and I love the style of this movie. The style and music in this movie is great. I love the score. But then this movie just takes you on this whole emotional roller coaster in the second act, or from the middle of the movie on, and it has this whole other storyline that they don't show in the trailers at all. And I love that storyline. I love where the characters went. I think it really humanized some of these characters. It was just an interesting concept. It's a movie that I wanted to talk about with people and the ending and stuff right after I saw it. And I love a movie that can make me want to debate with people about what it means at the end. Just a great movie, one of the most original sci-fi movies in a while, one of the smartest sci-fi movies in a while, and Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are fantastic. The performances are great, and it's just a damn good movie. If you love sci-fi, you gotta check it out. Number 4, we have Silver Linings Playbook, directed by David O. Russell and starring Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence. I'm not a fan of romantic comedies. I would actually probably say it's my least favorite genre, because most of them are shit, most of them are predictable, and they're all kind of the same to me. This movie, while it's not really, I mean it is, but it's more of a romantic dramedy. This movie is so real in its direction, in its writing, and in its performances that you can't help but just feel like you're watching almost a documentary in a way. The performances in this movie, it's Bradley Cooper's best performance by far. He's really proving himself to be a fantastic actor. Jennifer Lawrence, in my opinion, could get nominated. I think she did. I'm not sure for Golden Globe, but she didn't. I think she was robbed because she was also great. I love the back and forth between the characters in this movie. I love the ideas it presents. And thank God Robert De Niro was in a good movie again. Even Chris Tucker is good in this movie. This is a great movie. It's emotional. It makes you want to laugh. It makes you want to cry. It's just a fantastic movie. I loved it. It took me by surprise. And what more can you want from a movie more than that? A movie that really surprises you. So it's just a damn good movie, and I hope you really check it out if you haven't. Now we get into the top 3, the big dogs, the movies that really impressed me and left an impact on me. Number 3, we have Zero Dark 30, the Osama bin Laden flick, as most people know it, directed by Catherine Bigelow, who also won Best Director for The Hurt Locker. Now, this movie is just super effective. It's just really just super realistic. You could tell that they really took really just careful plotting and directing when making this movie, because this was a very serious movie and you can't toy with the events that happened in this movie. The performances are all fantastic. Jessica Chastain's really good. The dialogue's good. Yeah, is it slow in the middle? Sure, but when the raid sequence happens, it's great because it's not like an action movie. It feels really gritty and realistic, and it's just super. It leaves you with a lot of mixed emotions in the theater, but it was all really effective, and I think it's the most important movie of the year. Number 2, we have Argo, directed by Ben Affleck and written by Chris Terrio. Ben Affleck has immensely, and I mean freaking immensely, impressed me since 2007. He was the brunt of a lot of my jokes before that. I think he was the brunt for everyone's jokes, especially the media. But he has just proven to be one of the best directors working today, if not the best new director and writer working today. And this was my favorite movie of the year for a while. It's one of the most exciting and just straight up tense and suspenseful movies without really a lot of action in it. Just the stakes are so high in this movie, and to know that this really happened. The performances by everyone are great, whether it be Ben Affleck or the more comedic performances from John Goodman and Alan Arkin. The whole movie is just paced super well. The tension is always there. I think the opening scene in this movie is terrifying. Ben Affleck just captures that whole riot scene just so well, and it's really scary. It's affected me more than a lot of the horror movies that have come out in recent memory. While it's not my favorite Ben Affleck movie, I think it's probably the hardest movie that he had to overtake. Just, handling this, because this is a true story, and just the pacing and the writing. But the writing here, Chris Terrio's script is one of the best of the year, if not maybe the best script of the year. Just a fantastic movie. It leaves you really happy when you leave the theater, and to know it was a true story is amazing. And if Ben Affleck doesn't win Best Director soon, I'm never watching the Oscars again. So by now you may or may not know what my number 1 movie of the year is, so I won't leave you guys waiting in suspense that much longer. But my number 1 movie of 2012 is Django Unchained. I feel like I am Quentin Tarantino as a 15-year-old, basically because Quentin Tarantino is a huge film fan, and I feel like when I do a lot of my short films or scripts and stuff, that I take a lot of influence from other movies. And while we both love different genres, obviously he loves, the westerns and blaxploitation movies and the old school Howard Hawks films and all that stuff. I think just me and him, we just like the same things almost. I've never met the guy, so I'm just making a big assumption here. But every one of his movies, there's something that I'm just a huge fan of, whether it be the violence or the genre or the actors. It's just great, and this movie has everything a Quentin Tarantino fan could want. Not just what I would want, but any QT fan would want. It's got violence, it's got the dialogue, it's got the fantastic soundtrack. Every music choice in this movie is amazing, and the last 30 minutes of this movie has some of the best cinematic moments I've seen in such a long time. I mean, there's one moment in this movie, and I'm actually going to make this kind of a spoiler, so I'm going to put a little annotation to where it ends. But the scene where Christoph Waltz kills Leonardo DiCaprio's character, once again, big spoilers, and he gets shot, and then everything's just going madness, and then that James Brown Tupac song starts playing, and Jamie Foxx, Django, is just slaughtering everyone in slow motion. I wanted to stand up and cheer. It was pure ecstasy. I just love this movie so much. I really want to see it again. I think I've seen better movies this year in terms of structure and, pacing maybe, and just in story. Like, I think Argo is a better movie, but just in terms of fun and the most times I want to see a movie this year, this tops the cake. This is just such a fan pleaser. It's just such a great movie. It may not be Quentin Tarantino's most sharpest movie in terms of pacing and maybe even writing, but I would say it's probably my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie of all time besides Pulp Fiction. It's the closest movie I've given to a 5 this year. I really want to. I still have that pacing problem with it. It does slow down in the middle, especially for that 15 minutes, but that's just a minor complaint. I really love this movie. I've been listening to the soundtrack ever since I saw it, and even before I saw it, and I even bought Inglourious Basterds on Blu-ray the next day after I watched it. So Django Unchained is my favorite movie of 2012. So that's my top 10 of 2012. Please let me know what you would have put on your list and what you think of my picks. Tell me if you think 2012 was a really good year in film, or if you thought it was a little bit disappointing like I did. I don't think it was a bad year by any means, but I think there was a lot of films that could have been better and they disappointed. But I really want to know what you guys thought. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the new year. And thanks for a great year of reviewing movies. And I love every one of you that has watched my channel and subscribed to my channel. So I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys later.